we had the Hart Dynasty as new tag team champs, and they defeated Show Miz, with the Big Show turning on the Miz. That's the end of that angle. Big Show went to SmackDown, and indeed we're going to see what happens with him going babyface in those next couple of programs. Now we had Jack Swagger still double jobbing. He was on Raw, and following on Tuesday or Friday he was on SmackDown too, so they really are trying with Jack. You have to hand it to them. And as I say, the draft, usually excellent television, but this night was fairly predictable. I think, apart from, was there anybody that shocked you in terms of those draft picks?
I thought there was ones I had hoped for that would happen, like Jomo going over to Raw. I think that's probably where he needs to be, definitely.
Lay Cool, who took on Eve and Maurice this past Monday night on Monday Night Raw. And it is great to see Eve paired up with Maurice, an unlikely combination. We've got a heel and a baby face essentially, but it was interesting to see those two work together. Now Maurice was distracted trying to bitch at Eve, and then McCool with the big boot then pinning Maurice and even acting like a baby face, though she was right beside the action. She could have split it up, but then Eve, babyface, not going to do that whatsoever. Now you just mentioned Kelly drafted to SmackDown, and that was the result of that. Now we had CM Punk, who took on Matt Sydal. It was a fantastic match between those two guys, and I think Evan Bourne, who is a great Ring of Honor worker. Was this Ring of Honor on WWE television to see those two guys working together?
Yeah, he is a terrific performer. I don't think he'll ever get too over, but I have the fear inside of me that I know he probably will. Either way, I think Matt Sydal, good solid wrestler, and always good mat technician, and definitely knows his way around the squared circle. Yeah, I think a good display of stuff from both sides on Raw, and I think definitely Sydal coming out the better.
Yes, indeed. Evan Bourne and CM Punk both taking each other on there at the Raw taping. And indeed, Show to SmackDown was the result of Punk defeating Evan Bourne. And that, as I say, an interesting choice. I mean, it's not surprising. Again, Big Show has been going back and forth for quite a while now. He's been on both shows, just like Chris Jericho. And indeed, what does it mean to see Chris Jericho going to Raw? Almost nothing. Just a few weeks ago, I think he was barred from the program, but before that he was on each and every other week. But without a shadow of a doubt, bringing back Chris Jericho to Raw can only be a good move.
Yeah, now Raw is prime position because you've got Jericho and The Miz, and the two best, hands down, across the board for me, product wise, between TNA, WWE, Ring of Honor. These two guys are flooring it, Jericho and Miz. So Raw basically is going to be the show to watch, and you won't have to worry about R-Truth. You won't have to worry about Jack Swagger. Everything's going to be good over on Raw, so they finally nailed it. Good work.
Now at this point we had Sheamus cutting a promo, and Randy Orton came out to interrupt him, and this was where it all got a bit poor. I mean, Randy Orton and Sheamus is where they have to go. There's nowhere else Sheamus can go now. He has to take on who is to be pushed as a, we think, top babyface. They're still going back and forth with Orton, but we have to wait and see what the end result of the booking decisions will be. Of course, Edge worked us all, and we're going to talk about that later. SmackDown, shocking stuff from Edge, who also has been drafted to Monday Night Raw. Now here's what I thought. John Cena interrupted the promo between Randy Orton and Swagger, and he really fucked it all up. That's basically all I can say. How has he got that power to just make stuff so lame, so unfunny? I mean, who writes his actual stuff? I mean, just who is doing those lines for Cena?
Yeah, it comes back to the gatecrasher side of things. You know, you can have Cena, gatecrasher, Royal Rumble. It works. It works. And then you can have Cena, gatecrasher, SmackDown promo, Raw promo. Not so much, especially with his promos. And another typical example of Cena really just turn out the lights and the party's over. Cena is here. and it's not something you really want, especially when you've got a good angle already building and he has to once again stick his nose in the business. But that's just Cena for you. He likes to stick his nose in the business.
Cena likes to stick his nose in on all those top promos. Can't let anyone else get any heat now. Can't let that audience get somebody over, because then perhaps there could be problems on the old De Niro front when he's not in all those main events. But that's what happens, I think. It's all about politicking and politics in that backstage environment. And God, I mean, look at what they did to Mickie James. She was a top performer, and she expressed some interest in going somewhere else and doing something with that country album. She didn't want to do it with Jim Johnston. She wanted to do it on her own. And indeed, because of that decision, Mickie buried and then no longer important in the company. I do get sick of the way they treat performers.
Yeah, it brings me right back to the APA and how just because Bradshaw had a little bit of dough in the old bank and poor Ron came from the bread feed, you know, it doesn't it's a kind of obvious sometimes when you know what you want, and Bradshaw gets pushed to the moon and retains that title for quite some time on SmackDown, and poor Ron ends up in rehab. But there again is an insight into the business we all love. And how about Big Show and his new face gimmick?
Big Show's face gimmick is something that Teddy Long was very happy about this past Friday on SmackDown. Wow, he looks very happy to have that guy on board. I do want to talk about that in a moment. SmackDown this week I paid full attention to, and I'm looking forward to discussing it. But one last thing before we move on to Raw, and I want to know your opinion on this. We had a highly questionable line from John Cena when he came out talking a hell of a lot about Sheamus's skin colour. He seems to have, and a lot of the guys have, this sort of fixation, the writers have, with Sheamus's white skin. Well, I'm sure they've banned him from using fake tan like your Cody Rhodes and your Randy Ortons, but I mean, that's just the guy's natural skin colour. And I've heard it discussed now by fans, and I've heard it discussed on YouTube, and indeed on the programme itself. Cena, the top babyface, talking about a guy's skin colour. I mean, let's not say what I think that's going towards, but I think it's a little bit much. Let's stop talking about that. There is no sun here. That's the answer to the question.
On the prior opposite, you don't hear them putting down R-Truth and saying, look at this guy's black skin. He is one black guy. Wow, he is a black dude. You just wouldn't hear that shit, you know? So you gotta feel sorry for poor Sheamus from Dublin. But getting back to this
white skin issue.
This white skin issue. I mean, the guy's probably had no fucking sun. He probably couldn't afford to go even to the Canaries for 2 weeks, because, I mean, basically he'd probably come back pink. So white or pink isn't exactly, you know, going to get you over unless you're Bret Hart. But more about that later on in the program. Sheamus, he just didn't really get the sun, basically. You know, there's a lot of white dudes around. When you have the red hair and the Irish jeans and the English top, then, you know, I mean, stuff goes out the window. But Sheamus, I like your hat gimmick on the outside of the biz in the airport, and that black jacket and the hat. Thinking Dropkick Murphys, maybe, yeah, a little bit of Flogging Molly, but yeah, a good gimmick. I like it.
Sheamus has a good gimmick, and I understand that they have him this way. They haven't allowed him to tan his skin for that purpose. They want him to come over as a sort of Celtic warrior, and indeed what communicates that more than that sort of white skin indeed, and that sort of ginger look. Without a shadow of a doubt, he is probably even being powdered up a little bit to enhance that effect, and then Cena cutting a promo on it. And indeed Cena works me by having me talk about it, so you gotta say every cloud has a silver lining.